Ladies and gentlemen, it is Napalm Dawn here on G for G, and I just wanted to do a quick little video catching you guys up to some great news that I am seeing today and am so completely thrilled about. So let's go ahead and jump in it. God. Yeah, I mean, we knew it was coming. The rumors were pretty heavy. The crossover with another Eden, but right in the feels. All of this is right in the feels. New textures. Glide hook, remember that, dash and slash. I hear that fireball in my brain. Every problem has a solution, no? The orphanage, mother brain. I'm not going to reveal who that is. And they're going to package up Radical Dreamers, the original text adventure, with it. Radical Dreamers, which was basically scrapped to make room for Chrono Cross, and that is where like 80% of Chrono Cross's plot comes from, is Radical Dreamers. Makes a man want to cry. Nintendo Switch, PS4, Steam, and Xbox One. That's great. I mean, Nintendo Switch is phenomenal because there are people who can play Chrono Cross on the PSP. And, man, just wow. An absolutely legendary game coming out April 7th. Just crazy. However, we do have some things that we need to talk about. We need to temper some expectations here. So, before we get into this, let me explain my history with Chrono Cross and why it means so much to me. I played Chrono Trigger back in the day, and even before the Dragon Ball Z animator had his cutscenes in it, I played the original SNES version of it, and it was amazing. I don't think maybe we knew at the time how history-making Trigger was. Similar to some people who played Earthbound, but Earthbound obviously is a really cult underground hit, whereas Trigger is as mainstream as Final Fantasy VII. And to me, some of the best RPG games that I've ever played in my life, aside from 7, was Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy X, Trigger, Cross, and I'm personally a big fan of Final Fantasy 13-2. 13-2, very much maligned. It is creeping back into people's popularity now, because I think they're going back and realizing that it wasn't nearly as bad of a game as they thought. But 13-2 is a lot like Chrono Cross. It's timey-wimey bullshit and other universes to like a certain degree. Branching timelines, phenomenal sci-fi plot. Chrono Cross, same thing. Universe hopping and everything, and Trigger was time hopping. That really gets me. I don't know why. I can't tell you why, but it always does. Trigger was phenomenal, and then I had my PS2, and I had Cross. And, man, just fell in love with Cross. The plot of it was great, the combat system was great, the lack of random fights, and the fact that you could dodge them if you wanted to, the branching stories. And I won't spoil things, but like, do you save A Or do you not save A and do this thing? Do you are you an eco-terrorist or an eco-savior? I mean, the branches and how it leads to different characters are amazing. And one thing I always thought kind of sucked maybe a little bit is that one of the branching paths doesn't sound like a good choice, and it nets you the most powerful character in the game aside from Surge, the main character. It's kind of funny that he's down the first shit path, but it's so weird to be rewarded for making what is objectively not the most moral or nice choice in the beginning of the game. Those who play the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know who I'm talking about. You know the dual swords that he gets and everything. But for those who don't know, I won't spoil it. Cross always hit me right in the feels. And when I would see people down Cross and they would crap on it, I'm like, what is your problem? Like, that Cross is so good. What is your issue with it? And really, I think what it is people's brains could not get around the fact that Cross was not Trigger 2.0. Okay, well, is Final Fantasy VI Final Fantasy IV 2.0? Is Final Fantasy VII Final Fantasy VI 2.0? Yes, there were... Was Crisis Core even a better example? Was Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII 2.0? No, it was not. 13.2 is kind of Final Fantasy 13.2. It's the closest one that you can draw a comparison to. Cross was different due to some really interesting backstory with Radical Dreamers and it getting canceled, but it is the same universe. It is even the same world, despite being isolated to the archipelago where it all takes place. It is the universe of Trigger. And I get people expected Trigger 2.0, but once you got over that hump, what was really so bad about Cross? In my opinion, nothing. I mean, if you're a collector type, if you're a Pokemon gotta catch 'em all type, the type who would eventually go on to like mobile games like Marvel Strike Force or Marvel Avengers Alliance or anything where you collect multiple characters and everything, Cross should be right up your alley. And it's in a lot of ways a collector at heart, aside from being an RPG. But let's go ahead and examine one of maybe the bad things about it. Now that I've espoused my love for Cross and defended it, and I will defend it till the day that I die. I mean, my last breath on this world might be Chrono Cross did nothing wrong. But let's go ahead and take a look. So here's a new screenshot of Kid. Here's the old screenshot of Kid. Now, fortunately, sort of like the Halo remaster on the PC, you can turn these on and off. So new, field effect, attack, the menus down here, all the tech is really nice. Now, the hit points down here are maybe a little too typewriter-ish and too widely spaced. But attack, element, defend, run away are pretty good. Here, attack, element, defend, run away is... It kind of feels like a little cramped, a little blurry. The spacing on the hit points is exactly the same, but again, the text isn't sharp. And field effect and advanced are pretty much... Or field effect and attack are pretty much the same. The background textures, the wall, the tile, this sort of maybe open gap with a door over there, all pretty much the same. But now we really got to dive into the meat of this. Kid. Here, Kid has bangs, a very angular, almost the Communion Aliens face, a little too sharp and angular, and an actual legitimate full-on point over here. Pretty well-defined necklace, small. It actually looks like it really fits on the neck here. Dagger, grippy hand, fist, belt, legs, leg wraps. Here, no bangs. Very, very different with the bow in the back. I'd say actually a better, more realistic bow than this, which could almost be like a low-res chopsticks in her hair. the ponytail slightly hidden, but here you don't really get a sense of the bangs going on. However, you do get it better over here. The hair is, straw blonde. But the face is still kind of pointy. Looks like the bottom of original Tron's MCU, but you see her face paint. The eyes are pretty good. The eyebrows really express a sort of angry or intense emotion. Here, the eyes are uncanny valley. They are way more lifeless. This, it definitely loses here in the eyes. The eyebrows aren't quite as arched, so it doesn't look like she's getting ready to stab somebody or be confident in a fight. She looks like she's potentially confused. The face paint is almost non-existent. The mouth is super tiny. Here, the mouth is actually more defined with some shadows on the chin under the mouth. And a more flushed out, robust face. And there is intensity in these eyes. These eyes have emotion, whereas these are not. However, the necklace is, of course, very low res and, in my opinion, too big for the body. Here, the gear is kind of sharp and defined, kind of washed out, muddy. The shoulders are very t-shirt-ish over here, and again, a little bit t-shirt-ish over there, but the outfit looks more starched, more stiff than it does here, where it tends to look a little more natural. The dagger, the fist, is pretty much the same. However, the gloves have sort of Captain America's gloves going on over here, whereas there's some striping on this one, but it's blocky. So overall, I would say the older one kind of wins because the eyebrows and the eyes show actual human emotion and intensity, and the face is a little bit better shaped, whereas here, despite things being a lot crisper in a lot of ways, this is dead inside. This is not an alive person. This is an automaton. And these just kind of look like rabbit ears in the back, whereas this actually looks like it's a bow. Like, I can picture in my head what is going on the back of her head over here. Here I can't. So now let's look at Lena. So this is, towards the beginning where you're palling around with what you think might be your girlfriend. So here's the new, and here's the old. So not looking at the human parts of this, kind of a blurry island over here. Looks like green spaghetti. It's very washed out. It's very like third grader oil painting. The boat is pretty good. This kid looks about like what you would expect. This guy is still blocky and polygonal. Looks like pretty much it's the original. And then things down here just sort of like this green ball looks a little blurry. This net looks a little blurry. This section looks okay. And if we look here, the island is pixelated, but it actually looks like it was drawn better and is then pixelated because of the resolution of the time, whereas this actually looks like a kid dragged spaghetti through green paint and then just started throwing it on a canvas. Here, it looks like it's good if you could fix the resolution. The boat looks good. Kids look good. The dock down here is about the same. It's hard to kind of directly compare the dude because it's a different angle, but he looks the same. Now on to Lena and Serge. Here, Lena's hair is very straight. Got some good lighting on it. Serge looks about normal. Here, Lena's angle's a little bit different. The hair sort of looks, again, sort of the same kind of silky shininess. It's about the same. I think Serge is about the same, although you can see that his bandana tie goes to his shoulder level and a little bit beyond, whereas here it's just at about shoulder level. Now for the portrait. So here, Lena doesn't quite look Uncanny Valley. She looks happy and intelligent. The bow and hair tie is green. She looks very anime-ish, or almost sort of pushing towards a cell shading, but not exactly. Here, the bandana is darker. The face is got actually what I think to be a little bit more detail and a little bit more proper shadowing and light sources. Very kind of washed out and anime, and I actually find this to be a little bit richer. If they could take this and sharpen it, I think they'd have a hit. Here, the eyes are smaller on the face, like from the eye down to the cheekbones to the end of the chin. Seems way smaller than here. There's more travel distance to the to her jawline. She, unlike Kid, does have the shadow under the lips. She's got it here too, but it's a little bit closer. In a lot of ways, in the old one, this Lena is better. It looks like it had more care and painstaking design to it, and this just looks like anime. The hair tie looks a little bit better in the newer one, but here it seems to extend more towards back of the hair. Here it sort of ends at the ear. Kind of gives an Aloy look for Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, if we go to the site, there's going to be some more pictures which I haven't looked at yet. So, let's look at Guile. This is probably new. Guile's actually looking pretty good here. Sharp, everything seems defined. They're still using the wood frame. And then here is Guile. Alright, so actually, the actors in the scene have got a little bit more change here. So Guile is a little bit more zoomed in. Kind of a bigger face. Sort of a Sephiroth whitishy gray there. I think he comes out better. But here he has a very neutral mouth. It's a very expressionless mouth. It's not happy or sad or angry. It's just very, like, matter of fact. Here, it almost has a slight downturn. And it kind of gives his face a very JoJo series look. And it also makes him maybe just a little bit upset or mad looking compared to this one. Actually, looking at the characters in the field here, the hair is very defined. Chest pecs are a little bit more defined there. And here it's sort of more blurred out. It kind of looks like he has, and no offense to anybody, it sort of looks like the old 50s mammy hair tie, the kind of what they were getting rid of with Aunt Jemima, sort of like the old Tom and Jerry when there was the maid and they had the hair up and the tie that was tied in front. This is not a good look. Like, I don't know that I'm looking at hair. I think I'm looking at a kerchief. Here, I can tell I'm looking at hair. Hair of the face is very, very sharp, very defined, very aquiline and pointed. Here, it's just pixels. This one is a little bit harder to say. I think a lot of the elements of the newer one kind of win in this one. Lena is definitely more defined. Kid is more defined, but her braid goes off to the edge. Surge's hat looks way more realistic. Like, that is a natural skull shape. It looks like he got hit by a car and his head has a bunch of dents in it. Let's look at this one. Actually, this isn't too bad. There's a meanness to him. There is an intensity and an anger. The eyebrows are arched down towards the nose. His mouth is a little bit like, yeah, I'm gonna kill these dudes. Here, oof, wow, that's actually not a good look. It looks like part of his skull got beat up with a frying pan. Wow, literally nothing changed. The weapon is exactly the same. That is weird. The weapon is exactly the same, but his attire changes. Here, the gloves look very realistic, sort of a leather, like natural leather folds. This is just a block. I'd say the new wins on this one. The hat pattern is way better. You don't even know what's going on with this hat there. It just looks like mind-controlling scan waves. This face is not good. I think the new one wins on this one. Oh yeah, this is bad. Here we are again with my kid's first water painting. This map is not good. And these look like, smudges and everything with the town. Not Fort Dragonia, but Viper Manor up there. This pixelated version, again, just seems like it was good, except the resolution at the time couldn't handle it. I'm way more forgiving of this because I know the technology. This is just blurry finger painting. I would say this is new. I don't like his face there. I think this is bad. There's the rabbit ears again. The hair ponytail is actually not that good. Down here is okay. She's got her face paint. Like, this I don't think is too bad. The two actors up here, not good. That looks okay. That looks like the original. That's kind of a little creepy. But then again, there were aspects of that sequence that were always creepy, I thought. The robots look pretty good here. Korcha is awful, though. I'd say Korcha is one of the worst characters in the game. That text is almost a little too new. It sort of stands out as being way more crisp than a lot of the other elements in this. By the way, Sprig is very, very underrated. Sprig is extremely good if you know how to use her. There's Kid again. That's the new one because of the face paint that's missing in that really ridiculous point. Okay, yeah, we've cycled into some repeats now. Here, Dash and Slash. There's that uncanny look again. There's no emotion in his face. Seems very vacant. The robot is good. The text in Dash and Slash is very clear. But the face is not good. And then here's some screenshots of Radical Dreamers. So this is good. If they were this animated and lively in the actual game, Poshushu, Surge and Kid, we'd all be thrilled. Surge looks animated and alive. Kid looks animated and alive. Poshushu looks like the ditzy dog that she is. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to get it, but I'm going to be toggling back and forth between the new and the old a lot. I see some good things, and I don't see some good things. So, yeah, how excited are you guys? Are you happy that on April 7th, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, and Steam, we are getting Chrono Cross and a legitimate, easy-to-access Radical Dreamers? I don't know if I'll play Radical Dreamers. Never was particularly big on text adventures. I may do it just to understand it, but here's what we're going to get. 3D models up-converted to HD. Brand new artwork and character redesigns by Nobuteru Yuki. Refined background music by Yasunori Mitsuda. Chrono Cross's soundtrack. I cannot even begin to tell you how good it was. And when you hear the making of it and why he's like, I picked this instrument here, I picked this instrument there. God, it's so good. It is one of the best RPG soundtracks of all time. I will put it against 7. I'll put it against 10. I will put it against FF6. I'll put it against Trigger. It is definitely up there, duking it out in a death match for a number 1, 2, or 3 slot. And I have some RPGs where I absolutely love the soundtrack, and that would be FF4, FF6, FF7, 8, FF8, a pretty good amount. 10, Final Fantasy 10, 13, 2, and 13, Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross. I can just pop those in on YouTube and just listen to them. And a lot of World of Warcraft tracks, but not necessarily all of them start to finish the way that I do in some of the other games. Background filter feature, which says the 3D models, illustration font, background filter cannot be toggled separately. They'll all be switched together. Battle enhancement features, you can speed up the game speed, which you could only do on New Game Plus. Battle boost, get an edge on the enemy to make battles easier if you just want to progress through the story. I don't think it really needs that, because Cross was never that hard to begin with, and you don't grind in this game. You will always fight enemies on your level. You cannot out-level this game. Switch between imitation pixel font and HD font, French, Italian, German, Spanish localizations, Radical Dreamers, and players can choose between playing with original or updated graphics. So, yeah, I want to know, guys, how many of you played Cross, and what did you think of it, and how many of you, whether you played it or not, are excited for the remaster? I hope a generation of people who never got to play Cross before do it, and I absolutely hope they love it, because what a game this was. Even if these Trigger fanboys come in and be like, oh, you know, Cross wasn't Trigger 2.0, well, okay, so what? In the Americas, Final Fantasy 2, American 2, was not a sequel to 1. 3 was not a sequel to 2. And let's be honest, American 3 or Final Fantasy 6 really could stand up there being one of the greatest RPGs of all time. People are so hyper-focused on 7 because, you know, new technology at the time, the first PlayStation 1, first disc 1, and we got the remake. 6 is a tremendous game, and I will put it against any of them. I mean, hell, if you pay attention to the plot and tactics is thick with CC, THICC right there. I mean, God, really pay attention to the plot and tactics one time about religion and politics and how religion affects politics. And I mean, there is some heavy theming going on in tactics. I don't know if I would put it up there as a top RPG, because, you know, it is strategy based, and sometimes it can be a little too thick with the ICC at the end of it for some people. But then again, you could just, you know, click through the thing super fast. However, they were devious traps in tactics that could really screw up your save if you got involved in some fights not prepared and you saved ahead of time. I did that in some Resident Evils. In actually Silent Hill 3, I did that. I saved before a boss fight, I think the roof boss, and just didn't have enough ammo to get through it. And I really know Code Veronica on the Dreamcast, I did that. I had to restart the game because I think I went into the airplane Clayface kind of guy fight, and I just didn't have the right equipment to beat that. I was like, well, this sucks, gotta restart. Tactics, that didn't happen. But I did have that, and happened some other games. So, yeah, absolutely. If you are an RPG fan, if you're a Square Enix fan, if you just like playing good RPGs, you think you don't have access to anymore, I highly encourage everybody to get Chrono Cross when it comes out on April 7th for the system of your choosing. Thanks a lot, guys, and I will see you in the next video.